I've sat beside people in their final moments, and their regrets were nothing like what you'd expect. I'm Sonia, a family doctor in the UK. For over 25 years, I've cared for people through every stage of life. I've sat beside patients as they reached their final days, listening to the truths they wished they had known earlier. What they shared was not just advice, it was a gift. And today, I want to pass that gift on to you. So let me ask you, when your final day comes, what will you regret? What if you could change that now? What if you could live today in such a way that your future self could look back and say, yes, I've lived well. I have no regrets. Stay with me. Together, let's uncover life-changing wisdom that can shift how you see your life starting from this very moment. Imagine this. Someone tells you that you have just 1 year left to live. What would run through your mind? Would you measure that year in the wealth you've gained, the titles you've collected, the approval you've won? Or would you long instead for peace, for harmony, for the laughter of family, for the warmth of friendships, for the quiet joy of having been kind, useful, and remembered with love? Think about it for a moment. What would truly make that final year worth living? Let me say this. Most people don't look back regretting what they did, but what they left undone, the moments they yearned for and never lived. The truth is, most of us drift through life as though it'll never end. We tell ourselves there'll always be another day, another chance, another tomorrow. But what if there wasn't? If each sunrise were your last, imagine how your words might soften, how your choices might shift, how your courage to live would suddenly rise. I once cared for a man who had fallen out with his younger brother over a small misunderstanding that grew into years of silence. Each time he thought of reaching out, pride got in the way. He told himself there would be time later. Instead, he threw himself into work, believing success would somehow make up for the lost closeness. Then an accident left him suddenly bedbound. In his final days, he kept asking for his brother, but the call was never answered. I can still remember the look in his eyes, the sorrow of realizing he had wasted countless chances to make peace. All the years they could have shared were gone. His deepest regret was waiting too long. And I've heard the same regrets repeated again and again. I wish I had lived true to myself, not just what others expected. I wish I hadn't worked so hard and missed time with my family. I wish I had spoken my feelings, forgiven sooner, stayed in touch with friends. I wish I had allowed myself more joy. I've seen the same story repeated in people from London to Lahore, Beijing to Bangalore, different cultures, different lives, but the same regrets. What holds us back? Fear? Pride? Replaying old mistakes in our hearts? Yet each of us still has a choice. If something is out of your control, let it go. If it can be changed, take one small positive step today. Let me share my own feelings about joy. There are two kinds of joy that make a life feel whole. The first is what you do for yourself. Guard your time and spend it on what truly matters. Stay present in the smallest of moments. Hold close the people who bring light into your life. Let go of ego. Be real, not perfect. And choose your words carefully, because harsh words can wound like a knife, but kindness is remembered forever. There are the choices that bring peace, the reasons you can one day look back and say, I lived honorably. I have no regrets. The second kind of joy runs even deeper. It comes from what you do for others, from lifting someone when they've fallen, from offering comfort in their pain, from being the hand that helps, the voice that reassures, the heart that forgives. In my years as a doctor, I've seen medicines heal the body, but it is compassion, love, and kindness that heal the soul. And this joy doesn't stop with the moment, it continues. When you share your wisdom with children or students, you give them tools to live better. When you create fair systems, kind workplaces, supportive communities, you leave behind a world that breathes easier because you were here. That's how your spirit lives on even after your body has left this earth. In the lives you touched, the lessons you passed on, and the love you planted. And after 25 years in medicine, I can tell you this: both kinds of joy matter. But when everything else falls silent, it is the joy you gave away, that brings the deepest peace. But as a doctor, I've also seen the opposite: lives where joy was pushed away. I've met people who slowly withdrew from family and friends, sometimes because of pride, sometimes because of hurt, and often because they felt misunderstood. They couldn't see the sacrifices their parents or loved ones had made. They carried blame where gratitude could have healed. And in that distance, something within them began to fade long before their body did. Because when we close our hearts to connection, we lose one of life's greatest gifts. And when the realization comes that life's short and love is precious, it's often already too late. And I've seen people miss the second kind of joy too, the joy that comes from giving. I've watched people who built wealth but never used it to ease another's struggle. People who carried knowledge but never shared it, keeping wisdom locked away when it could have shaped lives. People who saw others in need but chose silence instead of support, distance instead of kindness. They may have looked successful on the outside, but their spirit grew restless and empty because joy hoarded is joy lost. The deepest peace doesn't come from what we keep, but from what we give away. And after all these years, I can tell you this: I have never heard anyone in their final moments say they wish they had given less. But I have heard how people wished they had given more. The measure of a life lived well is not how much we kept, but how much of our value we shared to improve the world around us. It doesn't have to be this way. I have learned from sitting beside people at the very end of their lives that there are simple truths, secrets really, that can change everything if we act on them now. Every day is another chance to begin again, to create joy for yourself by guarding your time, choosing kindness over harshness, and being fully present in the small moments. And every day is a chance to create joy for others by helping, by listening, by forgiving, by sharing what you know, by lifting those who walk beside you. These two joys woven together are what makes a life complete. If you nurture them both, one day, decades from now, you will be able to look back with peace in your heart and say, I lived a joyous life. I have no regrets. I'm Sonia Doc, and my wish for you is simple: live fully, love deeply, and leave no regrets.